I think a lot of Christians have this idea of this holier than thou mentality where um, it's a finger wagging, as I've said in other videos. It is to claim that I have the truth and you don't, and I'm the good guy and you're the bad guy, which to me is really opposite of real Christian teaching. The idea is to really aim towards Christ, and in that, right, the only way I think that we can aim towards that highest version of ourselves is that we have to see our own sin. We have to be sincere. We have to be a sincere, right? To see our own sin, to see that how we weave our actions weave into existence, and then that reaps the fruit that we have in our lives. So if we don't like something in our lives, if we are dependent or we are addicted or we're overweight, however it's manifest in your life, when we see how our own ignorance has led us to negative consequences in our life, we can either take inventory and change our ways. This is simply the idea of repentance, or we can continue in our wrong ways. So if you are someone who is truly compassionate, you have someone who is in your friend or someone who's in your family, the best thing that you can do is to be the example of that which you want to see in other people. And to do that takes courage, because and it takes wisdom. It takes wisdom to know how to speak, when to speak. And that comes from an inner why. And your why becomes what your mission is. And I think this is really, I'm not going to, this is my vague understanding of it, but karma and dharma is a similar thing. Your karma, what people say is karma, is really this idea that karma is, what goes around comes around, but karma it literally means action, to my understanding. And your dharma is your duty. And I think the connection becomes as we understand how our actions are connected to our duty. So as we live our life, we're all going to make mistakes, and some people more than others, and some people vehemently will attach themselves to what their belief is, right? How they see the world is not going to be the same as how you see the world. And I think that the responsibility of a true leader, a true Christian in the realest sense, is not someone who goes around wagging their finger at, oh, how wrong they are and how right I am. You see how the right way is for everyone. And to become that which you want to see in others, and the more that others will attack you, the more that you do not attack back. Because if you're going the right way, let's just say let's say you've tapped in, you've become enlightened, you see that you are going the right way. Let's just, for the sake of argument, and you see other people going the wrong way, you'd be foolish to say, no, 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 go this way. You'd be wise to say, I'm on the right path. How can I get other people to go on the right path? And how can I know when? How do I know when they have ears to hear? How do I know when to let go? Because like somebody who forces you to do something, well, actually, you can push them away. So to trust in your whole being that you're going the right way, and to really have compassion. And you don't say that to people. You don't go out and you say, hey, you know what, I'm going the right way. I'm going to be the bigger man. If you say it, you're not fully embodying it. And what you seek first is the kingdom of heaven. You seek that peace within, because the truth is, I speak for most people, we all have that voice in our head that wants to, that's loud, right? And that's not the right way. As long as you're listening to that voice that's loud, it's not the right way. It's the small voiceless voice. It's when we have a really deep sleep and we wake up in those moments when we all know this, when we've had those moments in life where we wake up from a really good nap, a really good sleep, or we had a healthy meal that just, it gave vitality to us. Those are the moments that we have that voiceless voice. There's peace within us. and they come through different expressions of life. Those are just a few examples. The difficult part is how do we live there? How do we live in that place? And that really is the ultimate question on how we can lead others. That's the difference between a leader and a follower. As a leader really trust themselves, but how are we to know if that which we put our trust in is the right way? Are we listening to our mind? Because our mind can sound just like our true self. How do we distinct the difference? And the best that I can come up with is that there's peace behind it. It comes from a peace. It comes from a knowing that this is the right way. And it's that balance that I've spoken about in other videos and will continue to speak about, is it's the balance between the compassionate self and the ruthlessly, brutally honest self, right? Because you know your own heart, you know your own intention, you know what you really mean when you say something, and you know those who are not in alignment with that. And how would you call yourself out? And we all have to learn this in life. We say the wrong thing at the wrong time. I think being in the arena, it has the ability to forge us into this wisdom. And you have to see that this is the idea of the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is to realize that everything that you're putting out comes back to you. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. To truly follow Christ you have to really know yourself and your own pitfalls to its core. To the extent that you are connected with your core will determine your effectiveness in really helping others authentically. And by authentically meaning, how the hell do I know what other people need? I don't. All I know is what I need and my own pitfalls and my own ignorance, and to shed that more and more and more. And as you do that, you see the right way. You see the pathway, and the pathway is not necessarily easy. It is the straight and narrow. It is a narrow place, not because you're going to be good. It's narrow because to go away from that path is to separate yourself from other people. And how many people can say that they're not hypocrites? Well, we all can say that we're all hypocrites. We've all been hypocrites at some point of our life. Are we now? Are we aiming away from hypocrisy? Are we aware of our own hypocrisy? These are the questions to me that matter at its core. When you give birth to these answers, which are found within you, don't listen to me, go within yourself, ask your own questions, take inventory on your own life and ask those questions. Are you at where you're at? Do you have peace within yourself? Do you have that everlasting peace that's within yourself? The kind of peace that allows you to go your own way, and not go your own way out of being a rebel. Like, oh, I'm going to go my own way to get attention. That's the falseness. How many people can be truly real within their own heart? How many people? How many people do you know that you feel tremendous peace around? That they're strong in their convictions. They have the ability to lead, but not be bossy. How many people? I would argue very few, because only those who have courage to go within themselves and face the darkness within themselves, face the hypocrisy within themselves, face those ugly mistakes that we've all made, some more than others, and to go the right path for its own sake takes tremendous courage, because we all have that voice like, well, are you sure this is the right path? Why are you doing this? Because you start to see how everything is interconnected and how you are a node in a network, and every single thing that you say and do matters. And you have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to be kind of shit on by other people, because there's all different levels of ignorance. I'm going to meet people in my life who are going to challenge me, and they're going to force me to either sacrifice my pride at the altar or go deeper into my own ignorance and then see it and grow in that, because you have to sacrifice pride, and people don't want to sacrifice pride. How do I know? Because I'm someone who has pride, right? And we all have pride at different points in our life. I know better than you. Really? Do you? Do you see the interconnection of all things and how they affect us and how it affects everyone around us and how that ripples through time, and that your existence is much more important than you realize, and not from an egotistical sense, in an it is what it is sense? All the people you've met in your life, all the impact, all the experiences, and how that shaped the reality. Do you take responsibility for that, or do you brush it off and just say, no, that's their fault? We all walk our own path. And there may be a slight piece of that that's true, because we do have to walk our own path. But how much responsibility do we take? And how much do we try to fix that? We fix that and walk a path that is in alignment with what we want to see, and by being real, by being the most authentic. And we only see that by seeing how our fruit, by the fruit that we bear. So it's an invitation that, to me, the realist Christians are not ones who are holier than thou. They are not doing it to be seen in the eyes of the world as the right way. Look at me, I'm so holy. They're the ones who have seen their own pitfalls, their own ignorance, and they choose to go the other way because they see where their own folly has led them. I mean, this is in part why, in the 10-step program, for anyone who's been through that. I haven't, but I have people who have, and I would argue that we're all in addiction at some point in our life, that we have to learn. Maybe not all, I can't speak for everyone, but we all have that tendency to have that addictive nature. That tendency doesn't go away. That can be sparked in somebody who's been holy their whole life, and that we all have those weaknesses that if we don't address, then we become slaves to them. If we don't see them for what they are, then we become slaves to them. But the first thing in the 10 steps program is admit what you are. Admit your addiction. You are powerless to this addiction. Admit that you are powerless to whatever that vice may be, because to deny that is to say, no, I'm more powerful than that. To deny that is to say that you have pride, that you are somehow not, you're the holier than thou. And the truth is, maybe you are, but how many can honestly say that? How many can honestly say, you know what? I have overcome the world. And the world is always constantly inviting us to be in that position where we are, where we are blinded by the world. The world, there's nothing wrong with the world, right? There's nothing wrong with a drink. There's nothing wrong with food. There's nothing wrong with sex. There's nothing wrong with anything that provides pleasure or worldly satisfaction to the five senses. The problem becomes when we are attached to those and we lie to ourselves out of pride to say, no, I'm not attached to that. But is our heart reflecting that? And that's why somebody can say that they're not attached to something, they're not addicted to something, but their being isn't. So how do you know? How do you differentiate that? You have to go within yourself. That's what gives you the conviction to be able to test other people, to know whether they are on the right path, whether they are coming from truth or falsehood. So the core of this message is really that, to me, the core Christians, the realist Christians, and the realist human beings are the ones who do things for the sake of the sake of itself. You do good for its own sake. You don't do good to be liked. You do good for what it is. And that doesn't mean that you kiss ass to people. You do it for its own sake, because you realize that you, just like everyone else, we're all programming each other. So you do good if you want good in the world. And that goodness comes from you're aiming for goodness, right? Because what is truly good, and who can say they are truly good? It would be better if people were absolutely selfish. If they're selfish, that would actually be a better form of good than people who are pretending to be good, right? So this is not, when I say good, I'm not saying nice. I'm saying goodness itself. Goodness is fresh. It knows what will elevate somebody else, in what has the capacity to elevate someone's on a higher path. it knows the right action at the right time. If there is supposed to be an action, and this is a faith within ourselves that we have to grow in. So, and we know everybody else has fallen at different points in their life, and that we're all looking for that goodness around us. We're looking at it from our friends, the people we surround ourselves, our brothers, our sisters, whoever it may be in our life, that say, hey, you know what? This person gets it. That's what we're hungry for. We're all learning from each other. So at a certain point of being, you become the teacher and the student. You become that in life, because that's what life is. We are teachers and students of each other. And the ultimate is that we want that within everybody, that we are not just teachers. We're not just teachers, because there's many teachers who want to keep students. And there's many students that want to just have teachers. And this is the idea of like just worshiping a person. You worship, political person, instead of worshiping the truth that they stand for and watching if they deviate from that and holding people accountable to that. That's what we should all be doing for each other. We are programming each other every single day. And when we realize that the way we program other people will come back to us, that is the birth of responsibility, that we watch our words, we watch our actions, and we truly wish people to go the right path. And I do believe there is a right path, the right path. And that path ends up, it serves all of us, and it destroys all of us if we don't go towards that. So why would you want people to suffer? But if you don't speak the truth to people, then by default, you are leading them to suffering. If you see a window, right, and you have to see the window of opportunity to lead people into through the right path. And that requires, again, it requires humility, because I think only those who humble themselves have the capacity to see the truth. Only those who do. Not because you're afraid of conflict. That's not what I'm saying. And see, this is my own mind. That this is because I challenge myself, because I don't want to just say things just to say them. I shy away. I'm staying humble. Look at me. I'm humble. Again, another avenue for the ego. So look at me, how humble I am. No, you're humble yourself, because the complexity of the entire world and all of the events and how little we actually truly know. How much do you truly know? Do you know what's going on in other countries? Do you know what's going on in other people's lives? 99.99999%. Don't quote me, but I'm saying we don't know. We don't know so much more than that which we do. And to live there, I think, gives you more capacity to go the right way. It's those who are so positive that they have the truth. Those are the ones to watch out for. Those are the ones to look out for. And that takes courage, because in a world where people want to follow, just because someone looks like they are a truth teller, and to question, maybe you're telling the truth. That takes courage. Not to go around, because you don't know. You never know who's going to be a friend. You never know who's going to be an enemy. At a certain point, you have to trust yourself. And a humble heart, I believe, leads people to the right path. Honesty. Be honest. Be honest. You don't want to lie to someone who is a king of lies. They'll play you. Radical honesty and working into honest, because we all have our own path to walk. But I truly, truly believe that in order to be the highest version of yourself, you can't claim that to yourself. You can't, I'm so great. Look at me. I'm a Christian. Look at me. I'm a Buddhist. Look at me. I'm whatever it is. You be that which you want to see in others. That's the Gandhi quote. We all have heard it, right? Ad nauseum. We've all heard it. Be the change you want to see. How many people are living it? Be the change you want to see in the world. I know it's like such a corny quote. You know, it's such an overused quote on social media. It can be. It's like we've all heard it, but it's true. That's what's important. Is it true? Be the change you want to see. There's more power in it. Or tell people that. Watch which one works better. And you have to create a value structure that is in harmony with everyone. And the best I've come up with is that its ability to separate people from their actions, to condemn the action rather than the person, because all blind people act evil, act ignorant, act stupidly. And it requires, I believe, tremendous humility, tremendous hatred for your own sin instead of other people. And in growing in that, there's kind of, I believe, a pain inside. It's a death to the ego. And anybody I think who's ever been through it, from the people that I followed, it's a painful death. It's not something that's pleasant, because it's so easy to believe in ice cream and rainbows and cotton candy than it is to see the world as it is. Because I believe the world is both ugly and beautiful. And to see that, I think, is the birth of, that's the idea of to be born again. Childbirth is not, and granted now, but childbirth is it's a painful process. It's not something that's beautiful. It is, depending on what lens you put on it, but it's a pain. My point is that it's a painful process, and pain, the opposite side of pain, is pleasure. We live in these interrelated opposites. So the core of this video is to remind you to be Christ-like. And it starts with you. Don't go around judging other people. And what comes with that, eventually, at some point in the game, people will hate you for it, because they don't see the potential of aiming towards that within themselves, because the world has gone so much attached to itself that it's blind to seeing something greater, that something greater gave birth to this world. Something greater is, it's not the world. And how far down the road do you have to go to see where it leads? How much money do you have to make? How much of the world do you need before you realize that there's something greater than it? And it's not, again, it's not to say, I think it's foolish to just be poor. I think it's foolish to just, not foolish to be poor. See, I have to watch my own words now when I speak them, but I guess you see the interrelated opposites. You see there's a poverty in being rich, and there's a richness in poverty. And that you see, you're not trying to be rich, because why are you trying to get wealth? Question is, what are you going to do with that wealth? That's what matters. Right? There's just different problems that come with different people. We think so surface. We think, oh, once I get that, then I'll be happy. Well, you get $10 million, you're just going to express that which you are. So if you're a crappy poor person, you're going to be a crappy rich person. And maybe you have to learn that experience. But I hope that people go within and they play out what their desires are and go to the real one. And that's, be the version of yourself that you want to see in other people. And really think about, how do you want other people? Do you want people to just be nice to you? Do you want people to just be mean to you? What would be the best version? What kind of friends do you want? How do you want to treat your family? How would you want other people to treat you? What would you be willing to die for? What would you want other people to be willing to die for? What's worth dying for? Right? These are the kinds of questions that give life meaning. And we don't ask them, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it depends on, again, how you see it, but we don't ask the right questions until we feel pain. So I'd invite you to ask the right questions now. Ask them now. If my words resonate with you, ask them now. At the end of this video, ask them now. What matters? And why does that matter? And to me, that's the most important thing is to aim for the best version of ourselves, because that's the best possible outcome that can come back to us. So it's not only unconditional, it's conditional too. I'm not doing it, again, holier than thou. I aim to be Christ-like for its own sake, because that's the best way to play the game. And when the mind says, well, I want this and I want that and I want that, take those things that you think you want to their core. What do you want? I had to do that. For me, it was porn. And I had years in it, years just mindlessly consuming it. Why? I had to go through pain because I wasn't listening. But now that becomes a catalyst to help other people not to walk down that path, because I've walked down that path and I see where it leads. And I see how blindly people walk. Not even just that. People say, well, I don't watch porn. You can say that, right? You can say, well, I don't watch porn. Well, what is your vice? What is the thing that you do that you know you shouldn't do? Because most people have one. What is your weak spot? And how much are you willing to go into your weak spot and seal it? Not seal it because I ought to, but see what it's revealing to you. Because going into that place is another catalyst to being Christ-like, to seeing your weakness in yourself so you don't project it onto other people. Because the more you project your stuff onto other people, I hope you're ready to bear what comes back to you. The more that, what are you putting out every single day? That's my message. Node in a network. It's another video that I've put out. It's, to me, the most, if not the one of the most important messages that's really had such an impact in my own life, is that every single thing you do matters in ways that you can't even comprehend. Your life is important, but don't let that go to your head. Oh, because that becomes quickly, me saying your life is so important can quickly become self-importance. I'm so important. And then what happens, it's another way, the trick, the ego gets in, you separate yourself from other people. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. Be Christ-like instead of wagging your finger and telling people what Christ would do.